One.
Go.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball Podcast. Matthew Cox going back to back hosting duty. Jim Root back in tow. Mr. McKeon back per usual. We are at full strength, ready to talk A-10, one of the most scary, feverish fan bases of any conference out there. I always tremble getting ready for this episode because any wrong take can take you into a deep, dark alley of slander and tar and feathering. But Jim, how are you? Good to see you back on the program after your escapades down in South Beach.
Yeah, South Beach-ish, South Beach adjacent in Miami. It's good to be back, fellas. Ready to talk A-10, as Matt said. You enter this with a helmet on when you're talking A-10. That's how much we fear you, A-10 fan bases. But we're excited to talk about you, give you your own episode this preseason. All 14 teams, Kai, not 15, as you so acutely noted on Twitter. But yes, it's good to be back. It's good to be talking hoops again with my boys.
Yes, and I also am happy to be back for a consecutive week and excited to talk about the A-10. UMass going to the MAC. We'll talk about it, I'm sure, in the intro, but oh my goodness. What a silly choice.
Football.
We can save that, but
Football.
I'm doing well. Thank you, Matthew.
Good. Yeah, stupid. I just think it's anyway, yeah, we'll get to the whole we've talked about this on there, but this is the one conference that at least feels somewhat intact for now. Knock on wood. Everything's going to change as we know, but it does feel like without UMass, just the teams that are in there now feel proper. So I hope of all the leagues in the mid-major round that are untouched or touched lightly by the tectonic plate shifting, I hope the A-10 is one of those leagues. Um, let's go through the housekeeping items here. Self-promotion, selfless promotion, none other than Jay Pitty, Joe Paskoff. Thank you for your ones and twos work, setting us up and closing us out every episode on our lovely program. And please subscribe to this podcast if you don't already. I'm not sure why you wouldn't, but that's on iTunes, Spotify, and most importantly, perhaps on YouTube. Like if you're listening right now, if you're listening via Spotify or Apple, go on to YouTube and just go ahead and hit that like button, and then subscribe to us if you don't already. Multiple burner accounts are accepted. We do allow that. We will not tell on you, and we embrace that actually. Speaking of burner, the burner ball as it's blossomed into basket under review. Brrr. Check us out, folks. All the previews that we're doing this summer are on there. We're getting into the top 10 territory. Then we will seamlessly transition into conference previews. And just that content vault is just a small silo of many silos that is the crazy world of all the stuff that we have going on there. Jim's heavily involved doing podcasts with Will Warren. We got breakdowns, schematic deep dives from Jordan Majeski, and just the discourse within the Discord. Remember, you get to be a member of both the online access to the website and the chatter in the Discord. I promise you, you'll be a smarter ball knower every day you're engaged in that. So check it out. That's any routing to that is on our Twitter. That's at 3MW underscore CBB. Same handle applies on Instagram if you want to check out our thirst traps. I think that's it.
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like I'm missing something.
No,
I feel empty.
you did great. You're
Good.
doing a great
Let's
job,
round it
buddy.
up then, fellas. Rudy, Roundup. Jim.
Let's do it, Matthew. It's time to talk news and notes over the past week. We're starting with a controversy in the world of college basketball, but no, we're not, Matt. We got to give a shout out to CBB Analytics before we do, our loyal sponsor, which I have been using daily in our preview writing process.
That's right, Jim. The holy grail of college basketball statistical databases, websites, visualization tools, as we like so very much as we've gone through these previews, and as you've probably seen if you're reading our previews, the ability to break down player shot charts, shot diets, contextualized by opponents, time of year, especially for those D2, D3 guys coming up, going back multiple years. Just looking at my Gonzaga breakdown for posting as one of our previews coming next week. Got to go back 2-3 years to get some Steel Venters shot charts, but woo, there it is, 2023. It's a beautiful assortment of red dots all over the floor. So again, folks, make sure you're checked out to you're subscribed, I should say, to all the access that we have. And when you do sign up at cbbanalytics.com, please use our promo code WEAVE, WEAVE, for $40 off your subscription. Assistance, especially if you're listening, please DM us, contact us directly if you would like the full access, the Holy Grail Pro tier, which is what we use behind the scenes. Wink, wink. But yeah, thank you, Nick and team, and continue. They will be rolling out some new features, I believe, in the next month or so. I will be sure to highlight those. I'm still trying to keep inventory of the new stuff that they are offering so I don't get stale with my usage. New things, evolve, adapt, grow, Kai. So thank you, Nick.
Yep, get better. Get better every day, Matthew.
That's
All right,
right.
yes, the key headline of the week. I think we've sort of known about most of this, but it's both CBS and ESPN and really went mainstream with the investigation into gambling by college basketball players. 6 teams, 13 players. Generally, we're aware. We knew Temple. We talked about Temple on this pod before. New Orleans suspended a bunch of people last year. North Carolina A&T did as well. I think we had a hint of the Eastern Michigan involvement. But Kai, we also have Arizona State's BJ Freeman. No wonder he never
Shock.
surfaced on the UCF roster after he committed to there this offseason. And our sweet prince, Mississippi Valley State, is in the crosshairs of the NCAA investigation.
Really?
Can we just say they're bad and not put this shame on them? But Kai, what do you think of this? I mean, it does kind of feel like it's going to happen, but since at least we're catching it publicly instead of having it done privately, that's my spin zone.
Yeah, it's going to happen no matter what. First of all, I don't know the markets offering Mississippi Valley State props. It doesn't exist. Like the books that you're talking about. So Fresno and San Jose State guys got in trouble, and Matty Norlander did a good investigating, like he always does, a good investigative job going into the story. However, he thinks sports books should ban prop bets. It's like I don't think it's the sports books that's the problem. It's the underdogs of the world, the fantasy books that aren't labeled as betting that I think these guys are more so manipulating because I'll tell you, I can't bet on San Jose State's fourth best player prop in Illinois. You can bet on the big boys, but you can't do the small ones. And really, that's not the point, Matthew. They're pro basketball players at this point. They get paid. It's part of the
Yeah, I
game.
agree.
It's part of the risk, and we're catching it. And I think it's just kind of one of those things you got to deal with.
Yeah, I mean the prop thing. I actually would be fine if they just banned the props. It just to me, it's such
But
people don't
why?
realize how like
Why?
little money is actually at stake here. Like you can't actually bet substantial, meaningful, impactful dollars on player props. So
That's why I keep them.
that's why even just doing this. Hey, players, if you're listening, you don't need to do this. You're not gonna make that much money off it. It's not worth it. The punishment is like 100x worse than the upside of the benefit if you get away with it. So like, don't do it. But then the whatever. So that's where I'm at Kai. I also have no issue with players betting on their own teams, like Pete Rose claimed he did. I think you should be able to, like the Floyd Mayweather, Money Mayweather. If you can bet on yourself, that's fine. Just
Yeah.
don't bet against yourself. That's kind of
Not
stupid.
fade yourself. That's crossing
Yeah,
the line, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an instance of that with the Fresno State boys. 3 of them banned for life from college basketball, though obviously banning for life is a temporary or short-term thing since you don't get to play college basketball for your entire life. But 3 players from Fresno State banned for doing this, betting on and against themselves. And if you watch some of these guys, like the turnovers that they were committing, it's rather obvious, and it makes sense that they're out of the sport. Yeah, I mean it's probably going to be an unfortunate result of legal gambling, but it was happening before
It was
this.
happening.
Oh,
That's
and
right.
by the way, it's
It's
easier to detect now that there is legal gambling because when
exactly.
stuff like this happens, anyone who's a professional bettor watches the screen light up like a Christmas tree. It's like, oh, that's odd. Why is Temple being bet 5 points 5 minutes before game starts? Referring to Heiser Miller in Memphis, I think last year was that, or 2 years ago
Yeah,
was that game.
there's a game UAB played Temple went from -2 to
That's right.
-8,
Yeah.
and UAB won by 25, and it was
Legalization
like,
makes this easier to detect. I think that's a common misconception people don't understand either. So, yeah.
yep. So yes, this will probably cause an uproar with a certain small sect of people adjacent to college basketball, but generally it's just going to kind of be an unfortunate side effect that does not really impact more than, I don't know, 15 games a season. And even that. So make an example of these guys. Hopefully you'll kind of scare people out of doing it and they'll realize it's not worth the potential risk. Let's get to coaching news, fellas, because boy, there was a bomb drop this week, especially ahead of our A-10 preview episode. Billy Lang is taking an NBA assistant job, going up to the New York Knicks, stepping down as coach of St. Joe's. Kai, we like to call this the parachuting upwards. I don't really know. When you're basically facing down the barrel of a hot seat and potential firing at the end of the season, and you instead get an NBA job,
Mhm.
I can't hate the hustle, Kai, but I am going to be sad about not having St. Joe's as an auto fade for the rest of time.
Remember, kids, coaching is not about how you do, it's who you know in the coaching world. Why would the Knicks hire Billy Lang? Because somebody knows Billy Lang. It's not because Billy Lang did a good job at St. Joe's. I don't even think he did a good job in the NBA. I'd have to look back, but I don't think it was a glowing tenure. It's who you know. St. Joe's is better off. We'll talk about it, but the timing is awful. Like Steve Donahue is a fantastic coach, but I mean, what do you do? He was already on the staff at least, but gosh, in September, that's an asshole move. Number one. Number two, though, St. Joe's is better for the long haul.
What the heck are the Knicks doing filling out their staff right now
Exactly.
with that particular choice? It's
Huge
Again,
mind
ad for the
blowing.
Knicks.
he knows somebody.
I,
The answer.
yeah, Matt, we can. Do you want to holster some of your thoughts for St. Joe's later?
Yeah, I will. I'm not going to defend Billy Lang at all. I do think analytically he had some decent, like they were kind of making kind of a push, but like just in the wake of how you pushed Phil Martelli to the curb, no one was rooting for Billy. It felt like that's sort of it's where I think it started and where it kind of ends at this point. So I think most St. Joe's fans are like, good riddance. Don't let the door kick you on the way out.
Yeah, I mean, people might have been rooting for him, but the results did not match the rosters, and yeah, that
Yeah.
potentially you've got somebody who can maximize it now. But I'm skeptical. Big coaching change there. We'll see if it is relatively permanent or if St. Joe's does a full-on national search next offseason. We will find out. Other random news and notes, fellas. I wanted to call out. Is Maui kind of back? I like this 2026 field that was announced. We've got Arizona, BYU, Washington, Ole Miss, Clemson, Providence, and then outside of the Power Five, Colorado State and VCU filling out the crew. I know we've got two Big 12 teams here, Matthew, but I'm
It's
okay with
back.
that, especially when they're two big time brands like Arizona and now the money flowing BYU boys. And you've got some really good complementary groups. Chris Beard's going to be out there. Washington could be resurgent. Clemson is always consistent. Maybe Providence has a new coach. Who knows? I think this is a really good group, especially in the wake of the Maui is dying calls with
Yeah.
2025.
Agree. Love the insurgent. They're the resurgent with this. You're getting programs, right? You're not going to predict who's going to be good in 2 years, but I like these are good programs, Kai. I'm glad Maui. Uh,
Mhm.
there's some luster that was restored with this field, in my opinion.
Why has Providence played in this event four times? And I can't remember a time.
Wow.
Has Mizzou ever played in the Maui?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Providence is in
Hey,
Rhode Island, and
their fan base is fervent, Kai.
it sure is. But gosh, I'd love to go to Maui as a Mizzou fan.
It's a long flight. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
long flight from St. Louis too. It's not like it's a puddle jumper or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I always think it's more like based on who's going to travel out there, and I think they're trying to find those fan bases. And Providence certainly does travel. So I'm
Yeah.
Providence fans listening. I'm complimenting you. I think that's what they're
Yeah, I am
saying
too.
by
That was
repeatedly
Kai. Kai
inviting
said
you.
that.
Um,
Matt
Look,
Jim
I'm
on
just
your
saying
side.
they've played it
Kai,
four
not on your
times. I think
side.
that's a lot. All
Yeah,
right.
there's fewer Big East teams to choose from, and at this
Yeah.
point, you're not choosing DePaul. Why would you choose Seton Hall? Why would you choose Georgetown? So,
Hmm.
I guess Georgetown's at least a brand, but yeah, I guess it's where they're running back to, and three of the good Big East programs are in Players era, so it just slowly gets narrowed.
All,
Good
all
answer.
Kai's saying is
Good
that
answer.
Providence
Good
doesn't
answer.
deserve to be there four times. They're a middling program. That's all he's saying.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard, word for word.
Yeah.
Guys, that is it for other random news and notes. So, Matthew, without further ado, let's give some love and some shine to the Atlantic 10.
Yes. The A-10. Let's start off with, I guess, waving goodbye to UMass. We'll do it's kind of a UMass and Billy Lang joint funeral. One of the more we talk about the intensity of these fan bases, certainly one of the more passionate fan bases out there, and that skews very heavily toward basketball, which again makes the move out of the A10, which is largely driven by football, a very precarious one. But again, as we know, these decisions are not made by fans or reasonable people. They're made by, you know, people at the top of the totem pole, and money moves the needle. Um, I'm not going to miss UMass. Just going to say it out loud. Just frustrating team to predict. Hard to argue with their fans about their projection on a year-to-year basis. Um, I'm happier without them. Sorry, minute men and women, minute women.
We're taking shots on this
I
show.
know.
Wow.
A lot of strays being caught. Um, hey, the league overall, really good. It's been good for a while. It's been pretty consistently a top 10 league. Um, add
Is
Loyola 3 years
is
ago.
that good? Is that good what they think they are? What they should be?
Top
Yeah,
eight,
what I
top
guess
eight
is
last
it,
2 years.
Jim, here is the issue with the A-10, and we've talked about this, and I think this upcoming season will exacerbate that. It's just kind of in that no man's land of caliber where you have a lot of very good, capable teams, but not enough great teams that give you the Q1, Q2 opportunities to rack up wins that you need for an at-large berth. And as we've talked about ad nauseum, and we'll continue to going forward, the struggle to get favorable non-conference matchups to get those wins before conference play is even harder for the high to mid majors, so to speak. And so I think that's where, as we go forward, as we talk about these teams for this upcoming year, especially when you have kind of Dayton maybe taking a step back, VCU going through a regime change, although they still VCU is like the one of the best run programs in all of mid-majordom. But there's just it's just hard to get multiple bids from this conference, Jim, and that's what makes it so tough when you have 14 teams, all of which are pretty close in caliber.
And I'm sorry, but I think A10 fans will admit this. The league constantly like kind of poops the bed in the non-conference. Like you get one or two teams that perform really well, but then the middle tier, like George Mason was good enough caliber-wise to be an at-large team, but they lost to Central Michigan and East Carolina back to back last year. And like Dayton was the one team that in the non-con was like, dang, that is an at-large resume. They beat UConn, they beat Northwestern, they played some really good teams. They beat Marquette, and then they get into league play and they lose to George Washington, UMass, and George Mason at home, like back to back to back. And it's like, all right, we can't stop eating our own tail here as a league. When we finally have a team put together an at-large resume, the league destroys it in conference play. It's got to be pretty frustrating for him, Kai. And yeah, the quality of the league, it's good, it's solid, but they're just not putting together that dream three bid league season. It hasn't happened for them. And I like some of the teams at the top, but I'm with Matt. I think there's just going to be a little bit too much cannibalization again this year.
Agreed. A little more wide open than in the years
Yep.
past. I think there's a wider
Even
range
more
of
so.
teams.
Totally
It's
agree.
like Creed's arms,
Yes, wide open.
Kai. Exactly.
But I think there is a big drop off, like from the middle down to the bottom. I think there's
Oh,
clear
interesting.
cutoffs.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm find myself more maybe bullish on the again part of my point when you go play at LaSalle, when you go play Fordham, Mikey Magpeo, welcome to the war, by the way. I don't think those are going to be,
Oh,
those are not
I'll
gimmies.
I'll have Fordham rated higher than anybody else.
Uh, but like, I mean, even Dayton lost at LaSalle. I mean, like it's just a tough league to be it's a tough league to set yourself up for multiple bids. That's I think we've kind of made that point. So,
Right. But what you're saying, like those are the two, if LaSalle and Fordham are your two worst teams, they can beat a good team.
Right.
They're good enough this year, and that makes it hard.
yeah, you don't have Dayton going to Maui to kind of, that was always Dayton and VCU were sort of the non-conference. They would set up other teams to beat them. So everyone was leeching on Dayton's non-conference wins to boost their own resume, which is difficult. But so this year, I don't know, is there a top 50 team in this league? Kai, let's start with that.
No. Maybe.
Jim.
I think SLU's going to get there, but that's maybe a little too rich and optimistic. I like the post shirts, or the post hype breakout for shirts,
Yeah.
but that's being ambitious. I think objectively, in the most likely scenario, there's probably not a top 50 team.
There's candidates.
Yeah, I'm just looking
There's
back.
candidates.
Yes, many.
Many.
But I was looking back at the last 10 years. There has been a top 50 team in every year except for 2023. That was the year VCU got the auto bid, I believe. And
bad
obviously,
year. Yeah.
bad year. It's a down year. But it's been, league got much better the last two seasons. I think responded well coming out of the COVID thing. And then obviously Loyola's been a big part of that as well. Um, Other quick storylines here. You mentioned Mike MacPayo taking over at Fordham. Even bigger is Mr. Martelli Jr. taking over VCU, which is the Death Star of mid-major programs in terms of they always hire the right guy. They have all kinds of funding. It's well run. And generally, the rosters of those programs shape up pretty good. And there's a reason why they are at that. And Kai, as you mentioned, one of those candidates to be a top 50 team and to win this league because Martelli got a great roster. And we'll go through it in detail in a sec. But um, other things, the Philadelphia shakeup mentioned Billy Lang, but then LaSalle brings in Darius Nichols to replace the Fran Dunphy Swan Song. I kind of like Nichols, guys. I think he's going to be feisty. I think that's the theme of this conference is when your doormats, maybe they won't be, or Fordham and LaSalle, those are going to be thorns in the side of the top tier teams looking to, win the league, but maybe make a stretch for an auto bid if things, or sorry, an at-large bid if things go right in the non-conference for SLU or, maybe VCU
Dayton.
or Dayton.
Kai's number one team. Spoil it.
Okay, let's go
Wow.
through tiers standings. And I didn't, honestly, I think this league's pretty flat. So I tried to kind of put these into groups that maybe aren't my pure rankings. But let's start with my first key question, though. How many teams can win this league? And I think the answer to that question for me is five. And I broke that top five into two tiers. Tier 1A is called the Hype Squad, and Tier 1B is called the Usual Suspects, which is basically VCU and Dayton. Because I think they're both going to be really good again, but probably not as good as they have been. Tier 1A is SLU, as Jim mentioned, that second year post Josh Hurts hype. A lot of new pieces, but Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is back, which is obviously a pretty nice centerpiece to build around. Loyola Chicago right in our backyard. Some good continuity, some good transfer additions. Drew Valentine, depth galore. And then George Washington, I think is the most like hyped dark horse, not dark horse, but just most hyped offseason team with all the guys they brought back. They seem to have real money working at their disposal relative to the A-10 counterparts, and it shows. So, Jim, those are the kind of the five I highlighted, broken into two groups of teams I think can win the league and what I would call my quasi tier one of sorts.
I'm just going to submit one more for can win
Go.
the league, and I think it's potentially the team with the best coach in the league. That's St. Bonaventure. I think the talent is there for
Sure.
it to come together. It's an odd group, and we'll talk about why when we go through the teams. But I'm generally on board, Matt. I think all five of the teams you said can win it, and Kai, I think I'd add the Bonbons to that mix.
Throw George Mason for a wild card there. I mean, why not? Tony Skinn?
Duquesne?
No,
No?
no,
They can't win.
Man. Okay.
can't win.
I think they're kind of they're in that same potential nook. But yeah, let's break down the George Washington SLU Loyola tier. And let's start with SLU. I think that's kind of the team that everyone wants to talk about. Feels like there's a ton of shirts hype. Top 50, Jim. You think that's attainable with this roster? The theme with the Tier 1A, George Washington, Loyola, SLU, all three have great front lines. Kind of a theme throughout this whole league, but all three with, I would say, point guard question marks for sure.
Which is part of why I like this team is because I am in on the point guard situation with Trey Green. I think he's going to have a monster season going down a level healthy. It just didn't really work out in the Big East. He's small. That was always the issue with him. So getting him in the A-10, which constantly has like your little diminutive dynamos. Richmond had him for years, and UMass has had a couple. I think that's going to be a great fit for him. And Kai last year, I mean, they just lost body after body after body. Avila missed almost all the preseason, basically all the first month and a half of the season with an ankle injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult offense to learn and get familiar with. That's why you have turnover issues when you're early and not used to it. But now they've got a little bit of continuity with Avila back and a ton of depth now. They've got so
Yep.
many more bites at the roster apple. And I know Schertz didn't play a lot of guys with that elite Indiana State team, so maybe this gets whittled down. But there's versatility, there's shooting, there's a clear like front court trio that makes sense altogether. Like Otieno and Anya are good complements to Avila with having more athleticism. You've got Green as a scorer, some other ball handlers and shooters. I just it makes sense to me, and it gives a lot of whatever Schertz wants to do offensively, and he's brilliant. I think they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, totally agree. And last year they got hurt. I mean, he played the least amount of bench minutes in the country, and I know he didn't play much at Indiana State, but he had to play. Swope and Jemerson the entire game last year.
He's
Uh,
playing Dylan Warlick last year. Like,
yeah, they had
get
no
out of
bodies.
here.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Thames is back. Thames got hurt last year, I think, and Hughes left the team. It just wasn't a good situation. Yeah, I'm in on the transfers. I'm always in on Josh Schertz. I think they're definitely better than last year. Um, I have them short of the top spot in my rankings here, Matthew. But I do love the Dunlap ad. That's a great Jemerson sub. It's a pretty natural replacement.
Yeah,
Good
shooter.
vibes guy too. Good
Good vibes,
vibes guy.
guy.
Brady Dunlap.
Yeah, yeah.
Even the Sharma from Virginia, I think he can shoot it. I think he's a guy that a lot of these good coaches just find these undervalued guys from Power Six schools that just didn't have an opportunity for whatever reason. I think with Green, Jim, I'm with you, totally in on him. Tape is like, yep, very real player. And Sharma was another guy that popped on tape as well. Paulo Tino is the other guy. Am I saying that right? From Quinnipiac. That's like
It's
the big
Otieno.
transfer splash. um, Athletic. They need some. They need like a good athletic pair with with Avila. I thought Avila was kind of bullied sometimes inside. Just defensively, they need someone who can kind of combat his. Sorry, Robbie, lack of verticality. We'll call it to be nicely. So I love the roster. It's deep. This is my pick to win the league by a nose. So there it is.
Same. Same. Also my pick.
I hate going
Let's.
against Slew.
Sorry. Can we talk George Washington? And I just want to bookmark us talking
Crossing
about
the
George Washington
Delaware,
as the
or
second.
what about it?
Wait, what?
Is it crossing the Delaware or what? What was your favorite George
I'm
Washington
gonna
story?
hang up the what's the flag of Washington going across the behind me. I love this
The
team.
Delaware.
Chris Caputo,
Yeah.
three and D. I'm sorry, rim and three guy, modern basketball. But again, the front line, Kai, fully intact. I just
Mm-hmm.
couldn't believe how deep this team was when when you first kind of compiled the roster with what they brought back. I mean, I don't think they needed to add a lot, but they added Trey Dinkins from Duquesne, like kind of a
Huge.
proven starter in this league.
Mm-hmm.
You got Boo Boo Benjamin from Charlton, who was a 14
Huge.
and 5 guy. Gene Arangren, I can't say his name, from Hofstra. I mean, like legit starters from solid mid-major teams. I mean, like Trey Moss and Ty Bevins, guys who played key, somewhat high leverage minutes last season, are going to be like fourth, fifth guys off the bench. I mean, what's not to like about this roster, right? Is it just a lot of? Is it like the cap of the continuity, or is it just you don't not a Caputo guy? Like I'm
I
trying to think where this goes wrong. It just doesn't feel like the hype's gone too far. But I love it on paper.
I'm a Caputo guy. This is their chance for sure. He's improved every single year in Kempom, which is interesting, and then made a sizable leap last year to 128. Castro could be the favorite to win Player of the Year. He was all defense last year. Garrett Johnson, they actually didn't have last year. He's back from injury, so that's kind of like a sneaky starter back. So basically, four starters back. Jones was all rookie. You mentioned Dinkins. He is basically a starter. He started for, I think, even George Mason going back. He was a huge recruit for them. Solid. I love Booba Benjamin, Tarleton's leading scorer. We know that, Jim, from the Jeopardy episode. It's top 100 or bust for George Washington this year. If they don't finish top 100, it's a fail. I think if they don't finish top 3 or 4 in this league, it's a fail with the roster they have.
Yeah, I mean, I last year saying 9-9 is a little bit of a fail. I
Yeah, it
would have
could be.
expected a little higher than that. How much higher can they climb? Is adding a lot of quality depth the secret? Was that what they were missing? It seems like maybe they were missing a little bit more offense based on where they finished nationally, 11th in the A-10, 173rd nationally per Ken Palm. Like you want to see a little bit more efficiency from a team that's really reliant on 3 and D and has an elite finisher in Rafael Castro. But man, with Castro and Trey Autry back, that's two of the top six
Autry's a
players.
stud. I'm a big
Yeah,
Autry fan.
and two of the top 10 players per Evan Mia last year in the A-10. So like you've got real good continuity, and then just so many new options that some of them are going to hit. I think the floor is really high for them. I'm a little skeptical they're like top 50 ceiling. I can't quite get there personally, despite some of the really good additions. I just think those additions are good. They're not like ceiling raisers to me. They're a little bit more floor raisers, Kai.
I agree. I think this team actually has a higher. It's more about the floor for me. I think I feel safe about picking them to finish top five, maybe even
Yep.
top three. But I don't think this is like a total bust through top 40 at large team or anything like that. As much as I love Castro up front, the Garrett Johnson return's a fun story. Castro Johnson, good vibes there. But again, point guard, you're right. More quantity over quality. We'll see what Dinkins can do. We'll see what Arangrin, Gene, Billy Jean, I'll call him. We'll see what
Yeah,
he can offer at the
coaching.
point guard spot. But uh, And then let's talk Loyola, Mr. McKeon, the Blurs. Another, again, similar. I think all three of these teams here, similar deep point guard question mark. This one's different though because we know who the point guard's going to be. He was there last year. He's been in the A-10 for multiple years. Every A-10 fan knows who Justin Moore is at this point. Feast or famine
Has he been in the
makes you
A10
want to
multiple
This
years?
is year 2. He was at Drexel.
Yeah, he's played like 7 games in
Drexel.
the A10.
Oh yeah, Drexel's an A-10 team in my mind. It's not though. I get that. Sorry, it feels like an
The
A-10 point
Phillies.
guard.
Yes, we get it.
But Kai, they had Tavares from Charleston who can burn it at phenomenal shooter. I like him. Dom Harris from UCLA, who was at LMU, I believe. I think he's a good
And
this is his level.
yeah,
Can definitely break out.
Gonzaga, right?
Got Xavier Amos from Wisconsin Gym, who just obviously couldn't play, and even Dotson from New Mexico's got a ton of talent too. And then up front, Miles Rubin and Hoisin. Great formidable 1-2 punch there. I almost picked this team to win the league. I ended up going Slough, but I was right there on the doorstep of going Loyola as my top team. I couldn't get there, but very close. Love
Yeah, we
Valentine.
talked about high floor with George
Yeah.
Washington. I think they've got a really high floor at Loyola because the defense, like Ruben is going to be a monster on that end repeatedly. I think there's benefit to having familiarity at that position with the way Drew Valentine runs offense, like some of the dribble handoff stuff. He's familiar with the reads. He's worked with a couple of the guards before. I know they've got some new weapons. I'm very with you on Harris. He's a scorer extraordinaire. I'm not sure what else he wants to do on the court, but he can definitely do that, and it's gonna help them. And then just those versatile defenders. You mentioned Hunsu, Ola Joseph, Kellen Amos, guys that are kind of the tweener 3-4 position that can guard a bunch of different players. That's beneficial. I also just share questions on Moore, Kai. We didn't
Yeah.
love him at Drexel. He was a good passer last year before going down and getting hurt, but I think he can take some ill-advised shots, get a little bit into his own me first moments, and I don't think that's a good thing for this team considering the other options they have. If he is healthy and deferential, then Loyola can win the league.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad Drew, by the way, proved that year 1 was kind of a fluke. Last 2 years, he's been much better. 27-9 last 2 years, 4 and
Yeah.
14 to start. He's actually underperformed KenPom 3 straight years. I'm not gonna put everything or a lot of stock into that necessarily because he's still been pretty solid last couple of years. But it's
My
interesting.
theory is that he was
Interesting.
the Porter Moser like program bump in
Too high.
Ken Palm's
It's too
model
high.
that he was a part of.
Yeah.
He like created his own monster of expectations.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
I love Ruben. Yeah, he's the best defensive big in the A10. You could say Castro. I think it's Ruben. And Dominic Harris is the key. He brings the pedigree. Can he be the scorer like Dawson was last year for them? If he can, then I agree they can definitely win the league. They're right near the top for me as well, with the other teams we've discussed so far.
Yeah, Jim, I think you mentioned the point about the point guard being important, but not all the way important. And the team ball security is key. That's what crippled this team when they went south is because they have a lot of complex reads and stuff that they do in their offense. It requires some timing and rhythm. And when it's out of sync, sort of like Josh Schertz's offense, frankly, the early days of Indiana State and times at SLU, there's a lot of miscommunication, wrong page stuff. It takes some gelling for it to really click, and that's why I think you got to have more, but also playmakers on the wing, which Valentine talked about in our AMA in the Discord, and that's kind of the prototype of the guys that he's brought into. Hosinu being the kind of key guy in that approach. All right, we're going to team number 4. I was pretty on the fence here. Kai, let's talk about Dayton, your team to win the league. I actually have them 4th, I think, right now. Again, I think pretty flat at the top. Speaking of, Jim, you mentioned what the success of small diminutive point guards of the teams in the first 3 we talked about that have point guard question marks. Dayton does not. They have Javon Bennett, and I think that's kind of where this team starts. A lot to replace outside of that. Brought in a ton of transfers. Everyone's in love with Letang, the French wonder, stretchy, skilled, blossoming. But Kai, thoughts on the transfers? I guess you must like them as you're anointing them. You're crowning them the champion.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, they're always a contender every single year. I think Letang is a burgeoning star. He's going to shine this season. Yeah, all rookie last year. I think Bennett, how is he still there? Okay. Steady point guard, though, right? You have the continuity. Montgomery, Durkak, and Jones, that's a hell of a transfer combo for the A10. I think it's a really good combo. But Durkak, ignore the Rutgers season. He was awesome at Merrimack, and I think he can be very good here at Dayton. Montgomery, Georgia, I think he was at, Mount St. Mary's for that, maybe. And then Keontae Jones had a huge year for a good CSUN team. That's very solid. I think they're going to be right near the top of the league, if not win it. they are my pick as of now by a hair in the A10.
I don't know why. This is two straight off seasons. I've been a little skeptical of them. I look at the roster and I like it. There's a ton of playmaking. You mentioned Bennett, but then Adam Jai off the bench. Jones is a great playmaker in the front court. Dirkak can be that. I'm with you, Kai. Throw out he didn't fit at all alongside those other Rutgers
Dirkak as a
guys.
playmaker, I
And
like as a
he's
distributor.
good in
Yeah,
that. I think he can like be a back down bully ball type if they want to use him in kind of like a Damask role at sometimes. And yeah, I'm gonna flex the French. Letang is
Letan.
the big time potential NBA candidate. He can shoot the ball, he can block shots. That's your unicorn. That's what you look for at that level. And I love Keontae Jones. Off court stuff notwithstanding, it got dismissed. Let's not talk about it. As an unbelievable late addition in the portal. He's just good at everything. He impacts winning. He was really, really helpful for CSUN. The only thing he doesn't do is score in bunches, but they've got guys that can. So it does come together. I'm just kind of skeptical of Grant a little at this point, and whether there's some like fan base exhaustion with him and some it might be going downwards and headed the wrong way and ready for a refresh. So Matt, I actually have them kind of like tied fourth, considering fifth, even though I like the roster. So it's a really good top five. That's what I'll say.
I love Jones too. I had a good stat in my preview. In terms of event creator, Hakeem, like defensive menace. So I think Dayton's going to have a little more. They're kind of usually a vanilla shellish defense. I think they'll have a little more disruption next year to them. We'll see how
Yeah,
that
yeah.
pans out.
Dirkak's a part of that. I know he
Dirk part
played
of that as
zone
well.
at Merrimack, but he's disruptive.
And Bennett's obviously kind of a little mini thief too. Not crazy like super lightning fast, but cat quick in a change of pace, shifty way.
I did some quick
Yeah,
Kim palming. I think it's twice in 8 years they finished outside top three under Grant.
I
So
know it's
very,
just
very
such a it's
consistent.
Dayton.
Consistent.
It's
Time
Dayton.
for number 3 to 3 and 9.
I'll board bet that. Do we want to do some board bets? A10?
We
Outside
do.
the top 3, let's do it, Kyle. Let's have
All
fun.
right, cool. We shook hands.
I'm
for
gonna
podcast
abstain
folks.
here. I'll abstain.
Yeah. Yeah, you will.
I will. Riding the old fence.
Matty Fence Rider. Yeah,
He's
let's do it.
back. Let's talk VCU, who I have fifth. And I feel like some of the I know these analytical projections, Bart Torek has a very clear like, do not use this right now, but you can still use it as a reference tool. But I think VCU is going to be just based on the sheer fact that their programs, like Kai's saying, like Dayton, like always just good, even under first year coach in Martelli Jr. The roster they have pretty impressive. It's the theme is Jim, power conference guys coming down a level, getting an opportunity. The key names are Ahmad Knoll from UConn, Tyrell Ward from LSU, and Jaden Tracy from Oregon. And then I'll throw in Dumont from Villanova, who's gotten some love too. I wasn't as high on him, frankly. Brought over a couple guys from Bryant, did Martelli to kind of ease in that continuity, which I like. I don't know. It's a deep roster though. It's a ton of guys. I don't know who's going to emerge, but it does feel like depth is a strength of this year one roster for Phil Martelli. Sorry, I should say his first name.
Yeah, I've got the number 2, and maybe that's risky. And it's Jim falling in love with a first year coach and a new roster. That's typical. That is a theme of this podcast. So perhaps I'm over indexing on that. But yeah, as you mentioned, Matt, there's a really good blend of like proven players at a high level. I think Tyrell Ward is going to be a star.
Yeah.
Maybe some have forgotten since he sat out last year, but this is like a 9 point a game guy at LSU back in 2024. Big time scorer, matchup problem with his size in the wing. Tracy is just a very proven player. Barry Evans, also the same way, has played in this league. And look, Christian Furman, I know he ended up losing the starting spot to Bamgoy, but he played still like 20 minutes a game for a team that was
Solid.
definitely NCAA tournament caliber. You got some upside with Noel, Dumont, and Nick Lewis can shoot the cover off the
Yeah, he
ball.
looked
Their
good.
incoming freshman.
Yeah.
I think he was a Xavier commit before coaching changes. That's a really nice guy to bring into VCU. And I think Martelli's smart. I think he knows what he's doing. It's not quite the like rim and three Nirvana that I would want offensively, but there's depth, there's athleticism, there's high level talent, Kai. So I'm buying it, even though it's a little more uncertain than perhaps some of the other candidates.
Are VCU fans excited to snap back to tempo? You're going to get breakneck speed. I don't know how he's going to. I don't know if he's going to keep the top 10 pace up at VCU at a higher level, but Martelli likes to go fast, to quote Ricky Bobby. Yeah, I'm on this roster too. I would I got him 2-3, tied for second with George Washington right now. Is how I'm gonna stack the league. Nick Lewis, I think, is one of the highest recruits in VCU history, if not the top, and their fans are very excited about him. So he could be an impact player. I don't know what we're gonna get from Noel from UConn. He didn't really play, so that's just kind of a mystery guy to me. But I agree on Tyrell Ward. I think he'll be very good in this league.
And they needed a point guard at UConn, and he couldn't get on the floor.
Yeah.
Like that's a
So
little
Right.
worrisome.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think solid Matthew, but they're not going to touch their top 40 ranking from last season.
I think, yeah, another team that I would put in the point guard question mark category, which Kai, to your kind of as you go through this, makes me feel better about your Dayton pick. It's the one team at the top of this list that you feel at least it's a known commodity, right? Again, I think talent wise, pound for pound, this is the best team in the A10 now, just with the sheer pedigree of recruits and the powers for guys that are coming down here.
They're narrowly number one in the A10 at Evan Mia. So just a
Okay.
just
You
a
have
data point.
you have them fifth, Mr. Cox.
I do. Fourth, fifth, 4A, 4B. Them and Dayton, I couldn't decide.
I like your and
All
my
right, so
two
we've
my
gotten
2G team is
I know. I almost had like
Yeah,
an
exactly.
alphabet's worth of tiers here. This is my go-to. Everyone's good-ish. Uh, let's go to what was my I already my second my tier. I called tier 2A, boring but feisty. St. Bonaventure and Duquesne. Let's go with St. Bonaventure. Sounds like you guys are a little higher on them than I am. A point guard, DeSante Bowen, if healthy, I think the whole story to this team is he healthy and how effective is he? Right. I think they really missed him once he got hurt last season. The offense just didn't really, kind of fell apart. I got off to a wicked hot start. I forgot how good they were in the non-conference. I mean, they were 14-1 or something like that. Kai, do you like the ancillary pieces around Bowen? Let's assume he's healthy and effective. Do we think Schmidt has put enough? I feel like with Schmidt, you give him the benefit of the doubt. I've just learned to, some of these guys come in with lackluster production, but he seems to find guys that are diamonds in the rough, and I think he gets them to fit pretty good.
Yeah, I think Bowen was the reason why they started off so well last year. He started first 9 games, then he got hurt. It sucks. I think they brought in, first of all, Schmidt, terrific coach. I mean, he just hasn't had the talent last 3 years. I'm not sure he necessarily has it this year to win the league, but I probably have him in the same place around you. I think the defense will always be pretty solid. I like the Simmons from Gardner-Webb, the Marshall from Albany, and the Mitchell from Minnesota gets. It's a nice transfer trio. It's not as good as like a Dayton trio, in my opinion. I have no idea if the JUCO guy or the Italian guy are good, but if they are, okay, gets me a little bit more excited. I'm just kind of in on Schmidt, Jim, and I believe in his floor. And I feel pretty good about them being at least top half of this league.
Yeah, Grahovic is the really weird like skeleton key to this team where if he is sort of the unicorny type where he can block shots and shoot, which they're hoping he is, but he's played 1 year JUCO ball, so who knows? That really opens things up. I mean, Frank Mitchell is a double-double machine. He,
Love
he went a
Mitchell.
little over his head at the Big Ten, but I think coming back here, he's going to be a perfect fit. And yeah, just big time scoring pop on the wing with Simmons and Marshall. It all kind of fits together. We've got the point guard that probably favors distribution over anything else in Bowen, two scoring wings, interior monster in Mitchell, and then versatile center. The bench is a little shaky, especially if Lonati, the freshman from Italy, isn't that good. But who cares? Like, it's Mark Schmidt. He doesn't play a bench. Last 5 years, bench minutes, 363rd, 178th, which was weird, 343rd, 358th, 347th. Like, he wants to play six, maybe seven. And I think they're going to be good in that grouping. And as long as they get one or two other guys that can be competent to go with that starting lineup, plus maybe Lonati or maybe the Buffalo transfer, I'm a fan, Matt. I think the upside's high when they're playing just 5-on-5 with their top five.
Right. That's the problem with the lack of depth is if there is an injury, then it kind of it torpedoes the team. But if they are healthy, I really like that top. I'll even go to 6 or 7. But just to underscore, Grahovic, when you watch him play this year, he looks like Dave, like the rapper, like the white,
Lil Dicky.
like a
But even more ginger.
Ginger. I mean, just has like this. Like I feel like he is going to perhaps overtake Avila as like the weird, quirky poster child of like the A10. He is that. He looks that awesome on film. I have no idea what he's going to look like. I just know that Woj was all about him, and I was drinking the Woj hype machine and I watched plenty of tape. Looks really good. So on I kind of came around this team the more I looked at him and looked at even Simmons from Gardner Webb is a perfect fit with Bowen, like kind of a shooter, catch and shoot guy that I think fits next to Bowen nicely, a little undersized for a two guard, but still I like this team. It's Mark Schmidt.
Yeah. The
Um,
other thing I forgot to mention with Grahovic is he's 23. Like he's old.
Old.
He had like a weird like worked and then didn't go to college. Like he missed a few years while just in the workforce. So he's old, and I think that helps. Also, he played in the Orange Empire Conference. When you look at him, it fits. It fits the look.
Nice.
all right, let's talk to Kane Kai. Drew Joyce,
Yeah.
very weird year, I would say. It was a streaky year.
So weird.
First, I was like, oh, they're bad. And it's like, oh, wait, no, they're kind of feisty. It's like, nah, they're not that good. It's like, no, they're kind of feisty. Um, Solid front line. Love Dixon. Got some pieces back. I think they just were searching for some. I think their identity was a little bit in flux. Um, but I think their style is like very much thorn in the side of teams. I think it's like the one team you don't want to play if you're at the top of the totem pole. But I feel like they can also lose to anybody because they haven't. I think offensively is where I have question marks. I don't know what this team will look like this season that end, but I think Drew Joyce convinced me he's a worthy coach. I'm not sure he's great, but I think worthy.
Yeah, credit to him. He turned it around after a horrible start. They were as low as 242 in Kempom, and it was fun fading them for a while. And then it wasn't. He ended up covering every single game, and they just kind of stuck around. And yeah, they have four guys back with double-digit starts last year: Crawford, Nikas, Dixon, and Edwards. That's a really good starting point. I suppose I like Ginyard from UT Martin coming in, but the real guy is Hughley. I mean, if Hughley is anything close to like his Pitt days, like he could be awesome in the A-10. A-10 has some really good big guy defenders, but Hughley, if he's in shape, could be very, very good. I'm just really lukewarm on this team, Jim. The roster doesn't excite me. Drew Joyce doesn't excite me. I can't see them being much better than last season's 8-10 record in the league. I would have them bottom half.
I'm with you, Kai. A little lower on him. We need scouts on John Hughley's diet. Is he John Hughley? Is he John not as hugely?
Yes.
We need to find that out. It does help that they have Dixon, and he can hopefully play a bigger minutes workload. I think people were in on a breakout for him after the
He just
NCAA
can't.
tournament
He always fouls,
appearance.
Jim.
But
So that's why you need
yep.
Hughley to whether he's super hugely. 15 minutes would be fine, John, because you're probably going to get 20 from David. So that's your five-man platoon right there.
What
I
a
think
sad
that's
Yeah.
trajectory if that's true. Gosh.
oh, that's two really productive fives. Dixon's good, man. When he's on the floor, he's good. Very
He was
effective.
borderline all ACC. Now he's 15-minute Duquesne.
Yeah, it's tough. It's
Back in
tough.
Pittsburgh, though, back in the back where it all began, the Steel City. I kind of like the story there. I'm in on it.
I think there's I like the wing group and depth like Nikas, Cam Crawford, Jimmy Williams, a disruptive defender coming from South Florida. As Matt said, they'll be annoying to play. I just don't really buy the ceiling with them. And Maximus Edwards like kind of regressed coming over to this team. So Matt, I'm sorry, I'm not with you. Bottom half for me.
Yeah, Edwards looked good late in the year. I think he's got a little like off the bench microwave. I high floor, low ceiling. I agree with Jim. The identity is wing and frontline depth, but maybe Alex Williams from Furman pops. I kind of felt like he was going to be a good player before he got hurt. So
Can I say night to night high floor, not high floor for the or never mind. Not high night to night high ceiling, but I don't think for the season. Like, how could they? I can't see them cracking the top five personally.
No, not at all.
I think they're close. Maybe I'm just a little bit lower on these other teams here, but I think they are close.
Well,
Let's go to
okay, go ahead. The first group we talked
what?
about, I think, is just so good. The first five teams we talked about were like, that's pretty
Yeah, you need one of
hard
them to get
crack.
injured to crack the top five.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I think let's go to St. Joe's. So I called this Tier 2B. St. Joe's and George Mason, just good last year, but kind of a question mark this season. I mean, obviously, when you have Billy Lang and that whole thing, we'll see what that looks like. I like Steve Donahue. Frankly, it could be addition by subtraction. And he's been with the team like all. I mean, he was the associate head coach hired like early. I mean, so he's been there. Like he's not like he's just like coming off the street like, hey, come take over this team. It's like no, he's been in the fire. Kind of brought back four like key guys.
Mhm.
Deuce Jones comes over from LaSalle, who is I think a polarizing guy. If you saw him play last season, talented, erratic shot making. Dunphy just kind of let him do whatever he wanted to. Frankly, and I think his efficiency plummeted to take some bad shots, but you can see the talent there. And there's some depth here too. You got some guys come off the bench from Marquette and St. John's. I don't know. I think St. Joe's is going to get written off because of the Billy Lang thing and the guys they lost. Obviously, a major talent, but I think this is a middle to maybe upper middle of the pack team with the roster coming back and the Donahue effect maybe being a stabilizing force in the transition.
Yeah, I think it's middling. I have him below George Mason for sure. Yeah, him leaving in September is hilarious. But he was he had so much talent, Billy Lang, and squandered it. He finished over 500 once in the A-10 in 6 years, and maybe you can throw away the first couple of years. There were some injuries, but not the last two. When he's competing with Kentucky, and it shows you how much talent he had. So Donnie takes over. Yes, better coaching situation. Still a lot of turmoil to deal with. I mean, if your head coach leaves in September 10th, September 11th, that's a big deal. No matter if Donahue, maybe he was coaching the team before, who knows? Maybe Lang's been planning this for a while. We don't know the behind the scenes. I do think the guys coming back like Simpkins and Haskins, Finkley and Ajigbor, good defender,
Very
are,
good
are
defender.
solid. But there's no like Eric Reynolds. There's no Xavier Brown. They lose so much production from last season. It's definitely a talent exodus. So they are a middling team once again for me.
Yeah, and the too much of Derek Simpson's a bad thing. And if a lot of the ball handling and creation goes to him, that worries me. I think they need Jaden Glover to really kind of deliver on some of his pedigree. Um, should we really be hyped about Steve Donahue? That Penn team rolled over and assumed the position last
They
year.
did.
They were
Yeah.
terrible.
It could be
And he's
thrown
had
in the
like,
towel.
yeah, one good year in the last four. He got fired. Maybe it was like, I know I'm on my way out, and they just kind of everybody quit on it. But I didn't see a lot the last 2 years from Penn that made me like, oh, this is a mega upgrade. He's had some good years, but it's kind of been a while. So I'm a little bit
It's
skeptical
fair.
there. Ajagbo's a monster. The opponent shot 45% at the rim when he was on the floor, which I think is the lowest I've ever seen when going through Hoop Explorer, like on-off stuff. It went up to 60% when he was off the court. So having him creates a pretty solid defensive floor around the rim. They've got some athletic guards, wings. You mentioned Finkley and Haskins. Those guys are big and versatile. But Matt, I'm kind of skeptical that this could be like oh, Ron Sanchez isn't that bad. He'll take over for Virginia, and then the team just
Fair.
sinks because everybody's like, this isn't really what I signed
What I
up for.
signed up for.
They're
Yeah.
looking forward to their next stop.
Very fair points. This team is a good get off the bus team. Like I think they're athletic, they're big, they're strong, and I think defensively, we'll see. You're right. Donahue, does he unlock that? I don't know.
It's
And
not
you're fair to
really his
point out.
forte. Yeah.
I know Petty had no talent. Whenever I watch him play, I'm like, this team just has zero talent. And the Ivy got more talented, and I don't think he couldn't keep up with the Joneses. That's my Donahue defense. You're welcome, Hawk Hill.
Sounds like a cool 1960s movie. The Donahue Defense. No, no
Yeah.
takers. Okay.
I'm
I know
with
I
you.
kind of
I'm
like
with you,
it.
Kai.
I wouldn't watch it, but I'm sure it could
No,
make some money.
cool as in boring.
75 on Rotten Tomatoes. All right, let's talk George Mason then, because I think these two teams are actually fairly equal,
Mm.
which may be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just down on this Mason. So Mason loses everyone. Everyone's gone except for Braden O'Connor.
Yeah. The
He's
shooter.
pretty good.
Good shooter.
Corey Mincy, really nice little point guard, comes in from Presbyterian. I do like him.
I like
I think you have to be bullish on him if you're bullish on George Mason. They got Troutman from Northeastern, who was always hurt but good when healthy. Adebayo was effective as kind of athletic wing. He comes over. Nick Ellington, who I didn't love at Murray State, frankly, but he was productive.
Disagree.
They got some. I mean, this is a deep team though. Jahari Long, Jamari Hill from Ball State, Presley from Texas, and even Alan Spock is like the guy coming off the bench from Sanford. So there's depth here, Jim. It just feels too quantity ish for me, and that's where my concern lies. And maybe I'm too. I need to trust the Tony Skinn effect, and he's proven to be a very good coach early on.
Yeah, I think he's been a really good developer. Like, I think we probably would have looked at Jalen Haynes before last year and be like, yeah, like okay post player at East Tennessee State. And instead, he was like their interior fulcrum, their rock. And you can make pretty easy comparisons between him and Ellington, like the wide body post up guy. If they can be similar-ish, then it makes a lot of sense to me. And the defensive structure here is elite. They're in the 99th percentile in preventing rim attempts last year per CBB Analytics. And that's without like a true shot blocker. That's just the structure of the defense keeping you away and forcing you to hit jump shots. I think they're going to have that same thing going this year. Pretty high floor for me. I have them sixth, like in the vicinity with St. Bonaventure actually seventh, even though I said they have upside to win the league. I just think the defense is so high floored here with
Yep.
Skin in charge that they're going to remain really competitive and be tough to play against. And if you have a cold shooting night, you'll probably lose because they'll drag you down into the mud.
They do that like 2-2-1 delay press, and Skin talked about it, and it'll change throughout the game. Like sometimes they'll kind of weave in some like opportunistic pressure with it. Some they kind of just he said they just junk it up and they try and kill 14 seconds off the clock. So they just take away half your possession, and sometimes will sneak up on you with some pressure. I think it's defensively one of the best like tactical schemes in the league for sure.
Yeah, I'm with Jim. I got him six and very close to like the top group. Skin's been excellent, far exceeded expectations for 2 years. Two straight top 100 finishes, 15-3 last year in the A-10. The best two George Mason years since Jim Larinaga so far. I mean, he's been excellent. I don't love the total roster flip, but it's a lot of up transfers, and I do think Skin can make it work. Ellington is very, very, very good. Prom
Yeah, I just don't love
Prom
Ellington as
sang
much.
his praises in an
He
offseason
did.
interview with
Yeah, no,
me.
he did.
I think he can be dominant. He's scratching the surface on his potential.
Yeah, kind of a spacier, little underside, got long arms though. But yeah, he can be effective. I think you're right to Jim's point. Skin can extrapolate what I think he was at his best at Murray. He wasn't that consistent. He was hurt a little bit too. But yeah, at his best, he was very effective in that league. All right, let's go to tier what I'm calling 2C. But don't forget about because I just like almost forgot
God.
about Richmond and Rhode Island.
TC is so
And
funny.
I actually kind of like both these teams. I don't think these. I have like these both these teams right behind St. Joe, George Mason. Maybe you guys think they're substantially lower.
Yeah,
Kai, which one do you
the
are you
spread
bullish on
between
either of these teams?
the spread between these teams and George Mason for me is substantial. Like
Okay, wow. All right.
it's not close.
Let's go to Rhode Island here first. Rhode Island's more of a roster story. Richmond's more of a Chris Mooney. I still believe in you, and I give you a pass for last year's story. We'll start with Rhodey. You just don't like the roster, Kai, because this team was kind of good last year
No, they weren't.
until they weren't. But
Yeah, how many? I don't know. Go ahead. You can do your spiel.
I love Miles Corey, like my guy, South Alabama speed demon point guard, spearheaded one of the bigger exceed expectation turnarounds in college basketball season at USA. Cochran, if healthy, fire hydrant legs, Minnesota, like legit player, two-way player, can score. Even Tripp from Fordham kind of intrigues me. They got Itajere, the rim protector from NKU, who was a good presence, and some interesting guys off the bench. I think this is going to be a feisty team. Maybe I'm wrong.
I like
Maybe it's Archie Miller and he's like kind of on the hot seat and it feels like is this really going to work? But I think this is a feisty team.
I like the three guys you mentioned, Corey Cochran and Tripp, but the rest of the roster to me is very uninspiring. And how many years does Archie get? He's 18-36. He's never beaten his Ken Pom rank in his 3 years at Rhode Island. Every David Cox team is still better, which is crazy.
I know.
And he was run out of town. I mean, I just cannot get behind this team. I would be a little surprised if they finished top half. Very surprised.
Yeah, he's got the two worst Rhode Island seasons in the last 15 years and three of the worst five. Like it's ugly for him. I can look at this and see how it could be a really good defensive team. Like I think they've got size inside. Attention is a nice shot blocker. Tripp is a really good defender. Cochran is a thick fire hydrant. Corey's a pretty good stud on the ball. So is a nice defender off the bench. I think the half court offense is going to be hideous here. It's like, hey, Miles Corey, do something, and like maybe Cochran gives them a little bit too. But I really worry about that. There's not an interior scoring. Archie's never been a super imaginative half court offensive coach. So it may be frustrating to play against because the defense and they force you into some rock fights. But Archie has not been a good defensive coach here at Rhode Island at all. So that would be the first one that actually looks good on that end. And Matt, he is playing a lot faster,
I was
easily the
gonna say,
fastest team
yep.
ever last year. And the second fastest team was 2024 at Rhode Island. So it kind of feels like he's throwing stuff at the wall and it's not really working for him.
I like that he's evolving a little bit because you're right. I don't like his half court. I'm very familiar with his half court offense at Indiana. So I'm like that he's at least trying something different. And again, it was working for a time last season. I just think it was a little bit of fool's gold. But I think the defensive points are why I feel more bullish on this team, which is kind of Archie's, pack line calling card back at his IU days. But still, this is, for context, the least continuity team, I think, in the A-10. Like George Mason, total reset. Fordham, total reset. LaSalle for the most part. But like Rhode Island is a complete detonation to the last year. It's just like, all right, bunch of new guys. Let's see what happens. Um, all right, our next subgroup here. I think we're down to two left. No, we got to talk Richmond. Sorry,
Richmond.
Richmond.
Yeah.
Jim, are you higher on Richmond or you're with Kai and like why are we high on Richmond?
I think they're very forgettable this season. 12th feels right. You almost forgetting to even bring them up feels right.
Yep.
As long as Apostogos Rumaglu is in the lineup, I am not taking this team seriously. He's actually
Yeah.
terrible, has been terrible his entire career. He's a walk-on at UConn and he's been awful at Richmond. Maybe they brought in enough bodies where he doesn't
Jaden
have to
Daughtry.
like play a ton of
Daughtry's the
minutes.
guy.
Yeah, hopefully. But he was just fine, like big time scorer at Indiana State. Can't really guard anybody. I don't know. Johnston's solid. Pretty good transfer get there for them. Tyne has been in the system for a while. We know that's helpful in Mooney's system to have some experience, especially with Walls as the front court distributor. But Kai, this feels really low ceiling to me. I just have to put them down around like 10 to 12. That's where they belong.
They were so bad last year. It was almost unbelievable how bad this team was. Horrible. I can't get it out of my head. 21st season, by the way, for Mooney. Pretty funny. Like I swear, 10 years ago they were calling for him to be fired at Richmond, and we
Yeah,
thought
they had
that
billboards.
yeah, we thought that was a bad idea. But I don't know. The last time they finished outside the top 200, by the way, the following year they would have made the tournament. It was the COVID season that got
Yep.
canceled. They were like top 50. They did keep five guys from last year from the rotation, but the rotation sucked, so it's hard to like judge that. Matt, I'm surprised you didn't bring up David Thomas. I thought he was your boy because he played for DePaul. I think he
I
can
do like David
score.
Thomas. I think he's
Um,
going to be a player.
I think they're better
Nice
than
player.
last year, but still pretty bad and definitely towards the bottom. Like 10 to 12 range is feels right. Yeah.
I think I just think that again, my theme is I feel like the gap between this team and some of the teams we talked about above isn't enormous. They were fine last season until Delani Hunt got hurt, and then their whole season went off the rails. And I think when you're a team like Richmond, you don't have a lot of money. Your margin for error for injury is just so thin. He was such a critical two-way player, like defensive demon, like runs the offense. We'll see if Mikel Tinney can be the point guard this year. I think the Lopez is, I think, a nice little gift from Maine too.
If
His shot chart looked pretty good. I looked closely at his stuff. He's kind of a scorer shot maker guy. So I think there's a little more offensive punch than meets the eye. And again, they're going to play through their bigs with Waltz and hopefully, to Jim's point, not Romaglo. And I think hopefully Jaden Bradley gets those minutes at the four. But there's a little more here than I think meets
Daughtry,
the eye.
not Bradley. Jaden Bradley's
Daughtry,
going to
sorry.
play for Arizona.
Daughtry,
if
thank you.
if I may, Matthew, with Hunt to start the year last year, they lost at home to Marist. They got blown out on the road to Charlotte. They lost to Bucknell. They beat Maine by 4 at home. It was never good.
That's
Richmond
true. I
was
guess
horrible
I'm looking
last
at their
year.
Kempom rank. It actually doesn't drop much post Hunt injury. Very fair.
They just bottomed out for this program. Yeah, it was brutal.
Who else was hurt last year? They had one more guy get hurt. I'm blanking.
No,
Who
I
that
just
was.
think
Oh,
they're
Romaglo got hurt.
really
Jim. Maybe
bad.
with the health.
Hunt getting hurt definitely did not help. But yeah, woof. I bet on them at the beginning of the year. That's why I'm a little
I
bit
did too.
a little bit salty about
Little
this.
upset, I
The
guess.
Buck,
They were
the
just not
Bucknell
covering, not
game.
covering.
The Bucknell game stands out. Anyways,
All right, let's move on to the Fordham tier, which is joined by LaSalle. But this is a fun tier this year. It's not a typical Fordham tier. It's a fun Fordham
Yes.
tier because Mike Magpeo steps in. And despite the fact that he got off to like a very slow start, well, I mean, he wasn't hired till late in the cycle. So he got like a really delayed start in the portal process. And I think, frankly, rounded up a decent roster. Guys I like include DeJour Reeves from Iona, formerly of Northern Colorado, Zarik Nutter, Georgia State, formerly of NIU, been in kind of two weird situations. I kind of like him as a scorer. Louis Lamone from Harvard, healthy, hopefully, we'll see. Christian Henry from EMU, I don't know. Um, and then Dimitri Gardner, the D2 kid, Jim, I know you're high on him. He looked really good on tape. So just a few names of the, I believe, 10 transfers they brought in. Nobody returned. They got Akira Jacobs, who I kind of like from Hawaii. Actually got two Hawaii guys, by the way. Jace Howard from Michigan. Shouts to Juwan Howard's son, getting a little reclamation project chance here. Just a crazy diverse roster of faces and varieties of prototypes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Magpay is awesome. I'm going to just reiterate that. He outperformed the Riverside program rank all 5 of his seasons there. He had their 2 best seasons ever in Ken Palm, their only 221 seasons. He really elevated what they had and what they had going. So I think he can potentially do the same at Fordham. They'll build him a statue if he has 5 straight outperform their Ken Palm ranked seasons. I think there's a little bit of like looking at quantity and getting excited here. I like Reeves and Gardner as a scoring tandem, but beyond that, Kai, it's like, all right, we're throwing some average Riverside bigs, a couple okay Hawaii guys at this. Their non-conference schedule is like one of the worst I've ever seen. It's almost embarrassing that it was put together the way
I
it
know,
was,
got a lot of flack.
and deservedly so. It's disgusting. But it's better than a normal Fordham team. So I think if Reeves and Gardner had big scoring nights, they're going to be a couple teams that they shouldn't, and not be the typical total bottom of the league doormat.
Yeah, I think I said it during the coach episode. If you can win at Riverside, you can win anywhere. And MacPayo did that. I think he can win at Fordham. I really do like Reeves and Gardner. It's more typical. It's more firepower, excuse me, than your typical Fordham squad. I would have this team right next to Rhode Island and Richmond, and maybe even a little higher, just because I'm high on the coach and the change.
Yep, it's deep. Positional size. MacPayo talked about that. He was always had bigs, like real size up front, but then also on the wing too. Defensively, that was a big help to them at Riverside. He's got that here as well. I like that he does bring two UC Riverside guys with him. It's always a nice thing when the coach comes to a new place. You bring at least a guy or two with you in case it's a key guy. I think it's a little bit of a continuity expediter. Um, so yeah, we will see. Let's talk LaSalle and wrap it up here, kiddos. Darius Nichols. Speaking of depth, strength in numbers is like the hallmark of what he wants. Like if any coach hypes up depth or preaches depth more, it's Nichols. Talked about it ad nauseum over a couple of interviews this summer. Um, we want our 12 guys to beat your 7 to 8 is kind of what is the drum he was beating. Defensively, I think they're stout. The identity is weird though, Jim, because his Radford teams, it's tough to make sense of like what he was trying to do, but the way he described it was like he's an adapter, and I like that. So I think this team may take on different forms throughout the year. And I trust him to maybe push the right buttons to kind of lean on where the strengths of this roster are, which it's kind of all over the place, frankly, but there is a lot of bodies, and I bet enough of them will stick, and hopefully he can play into that depth that he's preaching publicly.
Yeah, and if you're stylistically flexible, having a ton of different guys and obviously bites at the apple is a good thing. They can figure out who the right group is and play the style that fits them. I'm really intrigued by Daniel, the JUCO transfer
Yeah, it
with
looks good.
absurd numbers. 4 blocks a game, 13 rebounds a game. Like let that guy just bound around the lane and disrupt things. As you mentioned, a couple of guys from Radford that help the continuity and should potentially, help with a quicker start. Does feel like there's some, quantity from shaky mid majors again here that I'm not super excited about, like Georgia State, UT Martin, Niagara, a guy that didn't play at McNeese and was at East Texas A&M before. So I'm just a little more quantity over quality for me, and that's why I still have them 14th. But it's a better 14th than it's been, and there's a little bit of upside for when a couple teams inevitably fall down the totem pole with injuries that they can elevate up to like 11th, Kai.
Yeah, I have this team last as well, but I do kind of pick LaSalle last every year. The difference is there's no Fran Dunphy, so this could be correct this year. I like Nichols. He had 4 solid years at Radford. He was a Huggins guy, and then Mike White is where he served under most of his time. I don't know. They just always have a talent disadvantage, and I think that holds true right now. Jim mentioned it's not a great transfer class. It's all pretty meh. I'm not that interested in this team. I think it's a slight downgrade at coach, and I think it's a slightly less talented roster than they've had the last couple of years. So I got them last, Matthew.
Here's the thing with LaSalle. Again, a theme I'll say ad nauseum. I agree, but I think the gap is not as far as
It's
maybe
not
some
huge.
perceive.
No.
This team wins ugly. I think they will win ugly. Two things that Nichols talked about: free throw line, offensive rebounding. So I think when they're attacking the rim, they're getting the line. I think they can kind of chip away at teams' death by 1,000 paper cuts. And I think with the depth they have, especially up front, I mean, Daniel might get like 5 boards a game. He's just a menace on the boards. His JUCO tape was pretty chaotic to say the least. So I think he's going to be kind of the epicenter of their identity up front. Brings two guys with him from Radford who are good. I like the depth though. I kind of like the Nichols who's just leaning into depth, and that's kind of what they're going to do in this new portal era. So in with the selling points, we'll see what it looks like. Um, all right, kids, how many teams are dancing from this conference? I think we all said one. Is that correct?
It's gonna be one
Two.
for me.
Jim?
I like the two
Two?
call.
Definitely not the three bid league, but two.
Two. I'm going one. How many teams get finished last in this league, Kai?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say a bunch. I think Fordham, LaSalle, Richmond, Rhode Island can finish last. I don't
We
really.
didn't talk about Davidson. I am
Oh,
laughing like a hyena
let's
right
talk
now.
about Davidson. Why
We should talk about
you didn't
Davidson.
slot them in in one of your tiers?
Okay,
Where
so
did you have them?
I guess this tips my hand. I'm not very high on Davidson this year, and some people are, and I can understand why
Poor
some metrics
Wildcat
might
fans are
be.
probably screaming at their devices.
Don't worry.
I know Steph Curry is a big fan of the podcast. Sorry, Steph, we forgot to talk about your his first season as a quasi honorary GM. They bring back Sean Logan up front, who I like when he's healthy.
Mhm.
They brought in Sam Brown from Penn, Jim, that team you loved so much last season. Kai, they brought in your boy Parker Friedrichsen from Wake, who I know you loved so much last season.
I hate.
Josh Scovins from Army, who actually I kind of like a lot.
I do too.
That's probably my favorite transfer, frankly, of the guys you brought in. And then J.Q. Roberts from Vandy. And then a couple of dudes off the bench that are like interesting, but not really. Matty McKillop.
Mm.
Kai, your thoughts?
Matty McKillop, consistent last 3 years in terms of where he's finished nationally, like 140, 125, 147. It's the three worst seasons in Davidson history since 2010. He's 1935 in the A-10. He's not his dad, unfortunately. But I think we have enough evidence that he's just not him. And they got hurt in the portal. Bailey and Durkin going Big Ten is a tough blow.
Mm-hmm.
Reed Bailey just broke out. Durkin had an unexpectedly great year. I do think the ads are decent. Like Friedrichsen in this league will be much better. And I do like Scovins. The defense, Jim, is going to be very questionable. But a full season of Logan
So
should help.
unathletic.
Yeah, they are. Logan's like one of the best shot blockers in the league, maybe the best, but it's still going to be a really questionable defense.
Yeah, this league has a ton of shot blockers.
It's a
Ajigbo,
good big
Rubin,
league. A lot of
Castro.
good bigs. Yep.
The opponent shot 49% at the rim when Logan played, 63 when he didn't. Like, hey, Indiana fans, that's Reed Bailey's rim protection. Good luck.
I know.
Enjoy it. Have
I
fun.
know. I'm worried about Bree Bailey at IU too for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Agree.
Logan is a good stability in the paint defensively, but they don't have a post-up threat, and that's typically a big part of this offense is like throw it in, run some split cuts on the perimeter, get shooters open. I don't know that they can do that. I do love Friedrichsen as a buy low. I think he's an obvious fit here. Movement shooter in a motion offense. That's going to work. Brown is like the poorest man's John Axel Goodmanson. That's the nicest thing I can say. Like the big playmaking guard. And Scovins, I've always liked him as a player. I buy him a little more as a shooter than he's shown. But there's just not enough here. Athleticism, interior scoring, athleticism. Yeah, I fear. I don't know. I have them like middle of the pack, but it's kind of like tilting to the downside without much room for upside.
I ended up putting them just for reference. I have them above LaSalle and slightly above Fordham, but I have them 12th. I do. So I guess I forgot about them for a reason. I'm not that high on them. So I apologize, Davidson fans. Kai, is that where you have them, or are they still middle of the packy for you? Are they better than Richmond? I guess you think they are.
They're better than Richmond. Yeah.
Oh, that's a board, but I got Richmond. Okay, Richmond's better than
Really? Word bet? Okay.
Davidson.
I'll definitely take that one, Mr. Cox. Yes.
I will
I don't
take
know
Davidson
what's
over
our
Richmond.
metric there.
I'll join that.
I guess I only have them
better.
I have Richmond slightly ahead of Davidson, but yeah, I'll go Richmond over Davidson.
Okay.
Yeah, Ken Palmer league standings. I could probably go Ken Palmer.
Both.
Right?
Both. Okay.
Let's go both.
Okay, so we can have a wash if they split.
Sure.
those.
I
That's
want
fair.
the winner of these to be like clear. Like if it's one's like 10 spots ahead of Kempom, the other was like 3 games better in the A10, and we can call that a wash. So we'll say both, Kai.
Deal.
Final A10 thoughts. Again, it's a league with a lot of good bigs. I think it's going to be a very heavy parity league, which will be frustrating for the top end teams that are trying to get that large. But I think it'll be a fun league. And the A10 tournament's always chaos. Always chaos.
Yeah, that's all. I don't have many final thoughts. We hit a lot of good overarching thoughts at the top. I think it's going to be tough for them to get to. I'm generously predicting it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Agreed. Hey, you know what? Not that bad of a league. Solid, but just not like 3-bid league style, Like first
No.
6 teams I like. 7, 8.
No, yeah, I mean, just you don't have the continuity, the talents. Yeah, it's tough to put together like high end upshot slingshot teams with the way the current climate is. It just is. That's just the high floor, but ceiling's going to always be a little bit lower than it probably was a few years ago. All right, that concludes our pod. Next week we'll be back discussing
Well, I think we're breaking
Mountain
into
West, right?
yeah the yeah
We're
Mountain
going out
West, Mountain
west,
West. That's right.
Mountain
altitude.
West.
Good,
Yep.
Yeah,
good,
good
good, good.
call. Good
Love it.
call.
Well, thank you, folks. Enjoy your weekends, the last few remaining of summer that are out there.